Okay, hi everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World Weekly Lecture. I am your host, Becca, and today I'm talking with Oscar Train, who is going to talk to us about why he chose to begin his digital nomad journey at the age of 20. So welcome, Oscar, and thank you for joining me today.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for joining. So I think today's talk is quite interesting. We have quite a few nomads in our community that are looking to start their journey, and quite a few people that are, kind of younger age. And I think it would be really interesting to chat to you about your journey as you started it at the age of 20.
Yeah.
But first, I'm just going to ask you to tell a little bit about yourself. So, where are you from, and where are you calling in from now?
Yeah, okay. I'm a Danish-English hybrid, but I grew up in the UK, and now I'm currently living in Bulgaria. I'm actually calling from the capital, Sofia, in this really cool little bar that I found.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how did you end up there?
So, I mean, you sent me the questions before, and this kind of leads to a couple things. I started in Bansko, which is the biggest ski resort in Bulgaria. I met my now girlfriend and yeah, kind of stayed in Bulgaria, used this as a base and traveled in and out from here.
So I guess I mean, obviously I've known you for a while now. I met you at the beginning of your journey, so
Yeah,
I know
you
the
were actually,
backstory.
yeah, you were actually one of the first people I met. In fact, the first person I met in my first time in the co-working.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's so
the
cool.
whole journey.
But yeah, for those of you that don't know Oscar, I'm going to get him to talk a little bit about like why he ended up in Bansko. And yeah, so I guess, do you want to start with telling us a little bit about um I guess let's start with how your journey began. Like you were in the UK. How and when did you decide that you want to be a digital nomad?
Yeah, so I don't know if I knew what it was called at the start. Like I didn't know it was called digital nomad, but it wasn't really like a knee-jerk decision. When I was about 14, I used to watch a YouTube channel called Fun for Louie, and he was this guy that vlogged every day and traveled to a new place every 2 weeks. My parents own an online business, and so we traveled as a family. And my dad and my mum would always say to me, like as they're out working on the balcony, they'd always say, I should aspire and try find something that I can build for myself and be
Mm-hmm.
online so that I can do that. And so that was always the aim. When I was 17, I got into the motor industry because one of the members of my family was also in the motor industry, and it was clear that was a quick way to make some good money. So I did that with the plan to kind of save up and start my own business. But then COVID happened, um, and that meant that I got furlough. So I had a lot of free time on my hands, and I could actually start putting this dream into action 3 years earlier than I had originally planned. So I started during the first lockdown. I started an online company selling fishing tents, and then as we sort of came towards the end of lockdown and I was going back into work, back into BMW, I realized that I I wanted to stay self-employed, but it
Mm-hmm.
needed to be something that didn't hold me to one place. And having real products meant storage, it meant returns, it meant fulfillment and actually like shipping them out. And there's things that you can do for that with like distribution centers and stuff, but that was extra costs and not something I wanted to deal with. So I kind of thought for a bit, well, what's something that I can do that I can use to make money whilst I travel?
Mm-hmm.
And since I was really young, I've been building websites on different platforms like Wix, WordPress, Shopify. And my dad actually said to me, because I helped him redo his website, he was like, "Well, why don't you do this? Why don't you make websites for people?" And I hadn't considered that at all. So I thought, okay, I'm going to move into this. And within 24 hours, handed in my notice. I think it was about 48 hours from making the decision and like
Mm-hmm.
looking up the platform and how I could do it as partners with Shopify. Um, I decided I was going to leave, so I handed in my notice. which was really weird because I'd just been given a letter from my boss, like congratulating me for the work that I'd done, and telling me that I was going to get promotion. So literally after getting that letter, I had to say I'm really sorry, but the letter I'm holding is actually my resignation. And so yeah, that started the whole process of me leaving BMW. And yeah, then very quickly, it was the 28th of November that I left, and Bulgaria was still in lockdown. I knew I wanted to go to Bansko as like my first place. I was ready
Hmm.
to travel and test this theory, but I needed to get clients and I needed the border for Bulgaria to open as well because it was still very much locked down with COVID.
This was in
Uh,
2020, right?
this was in 2020,
Okay.
yeah. So no, November 28th, 2020 was when I left. And then over like the Christmas period, I kind of had to get my stuff together and yeah, work out what I was doing, how I was going to get to Bulgaria, and how I was going to make it work. So I sold everything I had. Um, I sold my car, I sold my van, I sold all the rest of the stock that I had, and saved up £3,000. And then I basically said, okay, as soon as the border opens, I'm going to book a flight, and I'm just going to go, and I'm going to make it work. And if it doesn't work, I'll have to come back and save up and try again. But the idea was like no safety nets, because then it just absolutely has to work. And then yeah, I
So,
ended up in Bansko.
um, so you were working obviously for the in the motor industry when you was from when you were 17, and then you quit when
Yep.
you turned 20. Is that correct? Or you started with
Yeah.
your
I just turned 20, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
So I turned
then
20 in October, and then in November I left.
and you kind of come across the concept of like working online and having a remote business, obviously via your parents' kind of like lifestyle growing up,
Yeah.
and then following people online. What made you choose Bansko as your first kind of destination? Because I think that's something that can be quite daunting, is actually making the decision of where to start or where to go.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I originally chose it because I wanted to do a ski season. It was either Bali or Bansko, which are completely like polar opposites. One's super hot and one's not at all, especially at that time of year. Um, but I had been there before with family, so I kind of knew the place. It was still in Europe, so if I needed to come back quickly, I could.
Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, it kind of just I wanted to be in a place that was sort of familiar to me. I didn't actually know about the Nomad community there or the co-working up until like 2 weeks before I left. The
Okay.
idea was just go do some snowboarding and try work when I'm not snowboarding and make it work. But then, yeah, two weeks before, I heard about the co-working in Bansko through Bansko blog,
Hmm.
and I started to sort of have a look at a few of the videos that they'd done. I looked at some blog posts, and there were a lot of people saying, like, don't go to Bansko as your first one because it's the best one. And if you go to the co-working Bansko first, you will be spoiled for all co-workings like, for the rest of your life. And that I kind of thought, okay, well, this is my first time, so why not start off in a place that's got the most support, that's got, this effect on so many people?
Hmm.
If this is the best, then surely that's the place I'm going to find the most inspiration, the most support and help with whatever I'm doing. And it was, yeah, completely true, completely true. And I haven't been to a better co-working since. So it was all true, but I'm very glad that that was where I started.
Yeah, for sure. And I think sometimes perhaps if you're like just beginning your journey or starting a business, it's a great place to be because there's so many entrepreneurial people around. So it's great for bouncing ideas and stuff off of.
Yeah, yeah.
So oh, sorry,
I,
go
I
for
was
it.
going to say I've had a few clients from working in different co-workings, from co-working Bansko. It's given me the best advice I could have ever gotten in terms of my pricing structure and saved me many times. So that will always be my point. If I'm ever stuck when I'm traveling, I'll go straight back to Bansko, and I know that I'll
Hmm.
meet people who will just instantly fix any issue that I've got.
Yeah.
And it's a special place for that, I think.
Yeah, it's great to have the community. So obviously I know a bit about what you do, and you mentioned that you build websites. Can you tell us a little bit about, I guess, your business and how you kind of set up?
Yeah, yeah. So I build websites primarily on the Shopify platform. So mainly for people who have like an e-commerce based business, but it also works for services. And in the beginning, I I used to walk around on Google Maps and almost do like door-to-door selling, but just go through on Street View and find all the businesses that are registered, and then basically check out their websites or see if they only had like a Facebook page or whatever. And then I'd call them and pitch them this free preview build of the site.
Hmm.
Uh, and that was kind of where I started. I got some good clients, or I got a few clients from that. I wouldn't like say that they were good because my the business strategy kind of catered for a certain audience, which wanted everything for nothing. But since then, and with the help of people in Bansko, I've adapted the business strategy, and it's now more primed as like a web design agency. So we do social media management, search engine optimization, and then the core web design as well. But mainly for bigger businesses, and you definitely have to have a portfolio to get to that point. And so doing things for free in the beginning is maybe a good way, but there's definitely a lot of things that I would change if I was going to
Hmm.
restart. I definitely wouldn't do it in the way that I did. But then maybe I wouldn't have the knowledge now. I guess to like round up, I build websites kind of as a freelancer, but more from this idea of a web design agency. I don't know any code. I'm not a programmer. It's entirely no code design, and I'm mainly selling the Shopify platform.
Hmm.
Uh, but then I have my graphic design skills to go on top of that and to build custom websites and to give proper tutorials to my clients and set them up and integrate it with all their socials. Um, and yeah, it's kind of more of selling an online business platform now rather than websites.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I do not know much about building websites, as it's definitely not my speciality, but I guess what made you choose working with Shopify? Like, do they have good kind of, I guess, affiliate schemes, or was there a particular reason for kind of going with Shopify as your main kind
So
of?
Shopify have a partner program
Mhm.
which you can sign up to for free, but it means that you can then put on your branding. We're partnered with Shopify, which is a huge thing because Shopify is like the biggest name in web design and e-commerce right now. Um, and so I chose Shopify because I knew it was easy for clients. I knew it gave me some unique selling points that other web designers um, weren't offering.
Mhm.
So things like we transfer 100% of the ownership over to our clients, and that means that they're not contracted to us in any way. They can always go to another designer and they can do work on the site for them. They're never stuck. It's future proof and the client's completely free. So I wanted to be able to offer that because I knew that they were really key selling points that would make it easy for me to find clients.
Mhm.
And it meant that I'd get a good relationship with my clients because they wouldn't always be having problems like you get with WordPress if a plugin fails. Then like you can have this like cascading effect where lots of different plugins need updating before it works again. So I chose Shopify because it was easy and gave me some good selling points.
Do you think that it would be a good, I guess, way for someone who's looking to create a kind of remote career for themselves? Do you think those kinds of things are a good way for people to get started, like making
Yeah,
affiliates with kind of companies like that?
yeah. Affiliates is a difficult one
Hmm.
because an affiliate scheme, especially like the Amazon affiliate scheme, you need pretty heavy traffic before that's going to make you anything. Uh, I think they've lowered their affiliate commission now to maybe 2%. So you really need to have built up like a really good blog, and that can take 2 to 3 years.
Hmm.
Um, or you need to have a really good social presence that you can push for affiliate schemes. for someone who's looking to get into like this whole world and traveling, making money whilst they travel, I would say, yeah, have a look at Shopify. They have an entire academy of courses on how to use the platform, how to build the websites, and they're super easy. It's not a difficult thing to do. As you get more and more advanced, there's um, plugins. So I use a custom page builder called Pagefly, and that's free for the first 5 custom pages. So it means that the client nor I have to pay for anything to be using that plugin, and I can completely design a website as if it was in Photoshop. I mean, you can kind of move assets like down to half a pixel or percentage of the screen size, uh, and that's really cool because
Okay.
you get the whole Shopify platform without all the difficult coding, um, but also without it being like a normal template cookie cutter sort of site. You can really be creative with it. So if anyone's wondering what they can do as like a beginner digital nomad, even if you've got no design experience in the past, just have a look at Shopify, see if you can put together a site, um, and if you can't, have a look at the videos, and then you can. But it definitely works.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. So I guess kind of changing topic a little bit. Obviously, the kind of focus today was when when is a good time for you to start your digital nomad journey. I guess obviously from your own experience, yours kind of happened a little bit through chance, that it was sooner than you planned because of COVID.
Yeah.
What do you think the benefits are of starting? I mean, you started your journey when you were 20. What do you think the benefits are of starting sooner?
Um, the
Or what
benefits of
benefits
starting
did you
sooner.
kind of experience, I guess?
I mean, I guess it really depends on like your relationship with your parents. I guess if you start early, you've got that safety net of being able to go back to your parents and live there for 2 or 3 months whilst you save up again to go try again. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that was my plan. But other than that, it's not that there aren't any benefits. I would just say that there isn't really any wrong time to do it. If you're not enjoying the whole 9 to 5 setup and you want to live,
Mm-hmm.
with this sort of freedom, then there are all the benefits. And the earlier you can get into that, the better. Because if that's something you're looking for, then why not have it now rather than later? And so I don't think there's any benefits in starting at this age over another age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you are older than this age, you've definitely not missed anything. But if you want it, like start straight away. That's what I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know we've spoken before about, I guess, some of the choices that people have to make when they're finishing college or university and things. And perhaps that's often a good time to start because you're kind of maybe at a break in your career or your life.
Hmm.
And we've spoken before about perhaps choosing to, or your choice to go and do this rather than going to university was, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if it was more beneficial for you, but it definitely was a factor, right?
Yeah. So I didn't want to go to university mostly because I didn't I didn't want the debt that comes with that. In the
Mm-hmm.
UK, it's a crazy amount of debt because you have to get a loan for the course, but then also a loan for your accommodation. And if you try to work in a bar part time, then I mean you're not getting any time for yourself and you're not properly focusing on your studies. So yeah, it just didn't seem like the right move for me. Also, the one thing that maybe I would have wanted to study was like After Effects or like visual effects in
Mm-hmm.
film. But then I've always had this vision of wanting to start something for myself and travel, and you can't really do that if you're pursuing a career in visual effects. I mean, maybe with YouTube, but it's a much larger stretch. I mean, the likelihood is you're going to get into some sort of film company and then uh, do it with them. So for me, university wasn't really anything that I even thought about. It wasn't something that was on my radar. And yeah, but I mean, I guess that's why I was able to start this early because I wasn't going to university. But the things that I've learned over the last year, I don't think any course could have taught me. Um, yeah, it's a bit nuts all the things that I've experienced over the last year.
Hmm.
And the nice thing is that at the end of it, I've got something that I've built and no debt, and something that's allowing me to live this lifestyle.
Yeah,
And
for
that's just the
sure.
first year, so
So I guess this kind of leads on nicely. The next question I have for you: what have been your biggest challenges since becoming a remote worker or a digital nomad?
yeah. So the biggest challenge was probably last year, um, kind of July, August. Well, no, maybe a bit before that, where I was struggling to find clients,
Hmm.
and the ones that I were finding, I wasn't charging enough, so it wasn't. I didn't have enough money to live on, and so it was really like end to end, really difficult, and that was quite scary because I'd just gotten into a really great relationship, and so I didn't want to have to abandon my life and go back home for months to save up and try again.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean that's the same for any freelancer. Those finding clients is probably the most challenging thing.
Did you find there any, I mean, I guess if you've kind of grown up in the environment where your parents worked remotely, did you have any kind of like challenges with, I guess, being location independent? Like, did you find it kind of, I guess, unsettling at all, or have you just kind of really
But,
embraced it and really enjoyed it?
how do you mean? What, being away from my parents, or do you mean
Yeah, I
like as
guess just
growing up
kind
being
of
location independent?
leaving your home and like family and friends and kind of traveling somewhere new. Did you have any
Um,
challenges with that, or is that kind of what your one of the drives for
no,
doing this?
no, but I think that kind of comes down to my mindset. I've always
Mhm.
tried to get everything as quickly as I possibly can. I try to go at things like 110%. Um, and so I've always moved schools. I left secondary school to go to college early because it allowed me to structure my day. In the UK, there's this program called 316s that allows you to leave secondary school at 14 and you can go into college. You can pick a huge range of classes. Obviously, you're living, a college education life at that point. College being high school in the UK. Uh, and so you get to structure your own day. I was able to have a part-time job in between, but it has meant that, since I was young, I mean, I changed primary schools twice as well because we moved house. So I've kind of been coming in and out of friend groups like all my life. And yeah, so I wasn't really uh, deterred by the change, or it wasn't a problem for me because I guess I've been quite adaptable growing up. Um,
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. And I guess have you, like another side question to that, what have been some of your biggest like learning curves on the like remote business side?
yeah. Um, Anything that you're doing that is skill based, or yeah, a skill that you believe you have, 100% uh, you're undervaluing yourself. Um, so the issue that I had was I wasn't charging enough for my websites, and I had people come to me at a Nomad Fest in
Hmm.
Bansko last year, and they were saying that they wouldn't work for anything less than $100 an hour. And at the time, I was building websites for £300, and they didn't even have to pay me until it was done. And sometimes they'd take a month or like 2 months. And so that was a really big like cash flow stretch. And what I've done to fix that now is I've got more confidence in what I'm doing. I've stopped looking so much at the competition and like YouTubers who do a similar thing and feeling this sort of anxiety of, am I good enough? Can I charge that? Um, you know, and devaluing myself. And I've now bumped my prices to the point where I only really need to sell a website once every 2 months, and that's fine. And my clients are much happier for it. The clients that I'm dealing with now, you can see that they're excited and investing in their business. It's a much nicer way to work with people because these people have money, they appreciate your time.
Hmm.
They're not asking for the world for nothing. And so when I was putting myself at that price point, I made animations and adverts that I paid money to advertise on Google, Facebook, Instagram. And I had someone watch one of these. Um, he's a financial advisor. And he came back to me and he said, "That's a fantastic video, but no way am I going with your services because it says that you start from £300. Um, and my company needs something that's better than that. You're not going to be able to provide a good
Yeah.
service." And so I realized that I was pricing myself out because people were upset that they weren't paying enough. Um, and that's so weird when you build a website or you make a piece of art and you think, okay, well, that didn't take me that long to do. I guess I'd be happy with this amount of money for it. But you don't realize that the people you're selling to have no idea of the competition. Um, the industries are usually overinflated anyway in whatever you do that's skill based. And so, yeah, definitely price higher than you think you should. It would be my advice because you can always drop it down, um,
Yeah.
and then the clients feel like they're getting a deal, so it's a win-win.
Yeah, I think pricing is one of the biggest challenges, I think, when anyone's starting out, because obviously you realize that you could be new to a certain skill and you want to be fair, but then also it is interesting how much people kind of look at that and then kind of analyze your skills based on the amount you're charging. And if it's too low, are often not interested.
Yeah.
We started getting some questions in, so I'm going to start
Okay.
asking these. The first one is, do you have any insights for people who are a bit older and deeper into their career who might want to transform into a digital nomad lifestyle?
Okay. Um, I mean that really has other questions involved in that. Because what does that mean? Does that mean with kids and with the family and like really rooted into a job, or does it mean you've been in this profession for a long time and you're kind of sick of it, but it's what you've been doing for a long time, so that's what you know, and is it a risk to leave? They're very,
Yeah,
very
there's a
different
lot of
questions. So
factors,
I
I
wouldn't want
guess.
to I wouldn't want to offer advice on that. I would just suggest, I'm gonna sound like my parents now because they always told me they were like, build something up on the side. When it starts to make enough money, leave your job. And that's like a very sensible way of doing it and probably a good way to give advice. But for me, when I was really excited and I wanted to leave BMW, I wanted to start doing this thing, and they were like, "Oh no, stay. This is consistent." I think that damaged my enthusiasm for it. So I would
Mm.
say if you're really excited and you're sure this is what you want to do, and you really truly believe that you can do it,
Hmm.
then I would just say start. Like, just go for it. Um, if it's something that's freelance work, I would try get one or two clients just to test the waters and try it. Try a few different client acquisition or like lead generation techniques. There's lots of YouTube videos on how to do that. You can even buy email addresses for like £30 from a lot of websites on Google. That's completely legal to do. And then you can advertise through that, and that's very cheap to do. If you have an idea that you think could be um, your job moving forward into remote life and you've got the passion for it because it takes a lot of work, you really need to be excited about it and you need to want to be doing it all the time, then I would say go for it.
Yeah, and I think I guess from like your experience doing it, testing it in an environment where you still have a bit of finances behind you or something a bit stable coming in. So if it
Yeah,
does fail, then you can kind of you haven't completely cut all your ties and you can hopefully revert back and kind of try again or something.
yeah, yeah. I was trying to work out. I took a look at the numbers of how many websites do I need to sell to be able to live in Bansko. And in Bansko at the time, they've gone through a few price rises this year, but last year, I think one month I spent £480, and that was for the entire month. That was, snowboarding, going out and partying, my rent, all my electricity bills, everything. And so I figured, okay, I need to sell 1.5 to 2 websites a month, and with £3 I can last a few months.
Hmm.
The £3 actually factored my ski pass in that as well, so that took a lot of the money. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do think that's a good idea if you can work out what your pricing structure is, work out how many of these things you need to sell to stay afloat, and then save to keep you covered for 3 to 5 months. Then yeah, I'd say go with that.
Yeah, that's great advice. We're coming towards the end of the session, but I just have two more questions to
Oh yeah,
ask.
okay.
So the next one was, what systems do you have in place to scale your business, if any, or to
Okay.
automate it?
Yeah, so I'm now actually looking at pulling back a bit. So I'm looking to, like I said, turn it into an agency. And
Hmm.
actually a beginning for beginner nomads. So anyone who doesn't really know what they want to do, they can come to me and I'll train them for 3 days on how to build a website, or if they want to sell. So I'm now trying to recruit a sales team and a builders team, and then I'll take more of a project management role.
Hmm.
But anyone who sells a website will get £500 commission for each one they sell, and then anyone who builds a website will get £1,000 for each one they build, and they'll have my support throughout that. So the idea is to kind of take a step back and work more as a project manager, but build it out as this brand and this agency specifically for nomads who are traveling and wanting to get involved, to give them that first step and that first option into this lifestyle.
Yeah, that's great. It's a win-win. It's helping you kind of grow your business and then also helping introduce other people that want to get started as well.
Yeah, and there's two skill sets there. If you're good at talking to people, you can sell and make good money there. And if you want to play around and build websites, you can do that too.
Yeah, that's great. So I always end this with the same question. What is
Okay.
one piece of advice you would give to other people that are looking to become digital nomads?
Looking to become digital nomads.
They're like ready
Um,
to make the step, but they just need one piece of advice or encouragement.
Go to Bansko. That would be my advice. Pick that as your first place. Doesn't matter where. There's God knows how many Canadians and Americans in Bansko, so it's possible. Just get to Bansko. I'd say
Okay,
you can
yeah,
work it out from
that's,
there. Yeah.
that's good advice. I'd agree with you on that.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
even if you don't know what you want to do, you can go to Bansko and there's people doing everything from crypto to freelance writing to websites, and there's one guy writing about fish tanks and he makes a killing. So yeah, I just go to Bansko and work it out from there.
yeah, no, that's great. So thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you everyone who joined us. If anyone is interested in finding out more about what Oscar does, or even perhaps using him to build a website, where is best for people to get in contact with you, Oscar?
So you can go to the Kraken Web Studios website, it's www.krakenwebstudios.com, and then you've got all the socials there, or email info@krakenwebstudios.com.
Cool, thank you very much. So
Thank
thank you
you.
again, everyone, for joining. Next week, we're going to be speaking with Graham Coath from Next Stand about the importance of having correct work environment and equipment for your posture. And it's going to be looking into ergonomics. So if you're interested in that, then join me again next Monday. And thanks again, Oscar.
Thank you. Thanks, Becca.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.